heard the pros and cons about him doing this. A lot of people seem to be concerned, and others seem to have cheered this move on. Mrs. Blue, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, you know what? I think it's another sign of the times. And I believe that with him actually purchasing Twitter, is what he's saying is free speech. But I really believe that it's another agenda.
Okay.
It's another agenda.
Would you like to share your thoughts on what that agenda may be?
And, not to get too deep into it, but I feel like the other agenda is if you've been keeping up with him, he's been saying that he wanted to do this. I don't know if you call it a project or thing, but whatever it is he wants to implant this chip into your brain, and he's going to use technology to do so. I feel like him buying Twitter is a part of it. I don't know his whole plan, but he is one of the smartest people, according to the world.
You said according to the world.
Yes, he's one of the smartest people, and he, he has a lot of knowledge. But the Bible says that knowledge would increase in the end time. So, yeah, he has a lot of knowledge, and he has a plan, and his agenda is to actually implant that chip into humans' brains.
Okay.
So that's my take on that.
That's your speculation on it. Okay. All right. Mr. Blue, do you have any comments on that?
Well, she's done said a mouthful. These people are out here to destroy different things that's going on in our lives, and just give us what's the word I'm looking for? Misunderstanding, as far as
they're trying to deceive us.
Right, that's the word I was looking for. Deceive. There's a lot of deceiving going on right now, and that's one of the things that people are not paying attention to nowadays.
Okay.
They thinking that we're going to be, everything's going back to normal, but there's no normal no more.
Now I'm with you on that. I think we're entering into a new normal, as it's being said.
Yes.
I really don't have a concern about free speech, other than, and these are good points that you brought up. But I'm just concerned about certain things that I saw just back in time of Facebook. When I first started using Facebook some years ago, I watched, I don't know what country this was, but there was a man who had a female on the ground, and she was on her knees, and the unexpected happened. I mean, he just literally just sliced her throat.
Wow.
On Facebook, and I'm like, how are they showing this? And that image stayed with me for the longest time.
Yeah.
I could not get it out of my brain, and I mean, we see things like this all the time in the movies and stuff like that, but this was different for me, when I saw this. And so when we look at Twitter, which I don't use Twitter much, but my concern would be, will we hear things like that with all this freedom of speech? How would it affect children? And, of course, a lot of people are concerned about President Trump coming back on Twitter since he was banned from it. But I personally don't have a problem with him being on Twitter.
No.
But, Elon Musk, owner of Twitter.
Yeah.
All right. Now, are you two familiar with the sitcom Blackish?
Yes.
Okay. I never really watched that show, but it's my understanding it was one of the more popular shows on TV, and they have ended their season. It's come to a conclusion.
Wow.
Is that right?
Yes, I actually saw the last episode.
Okay. All right. And for those who don't know about the show, I did my research last night, and you correct me on this if I'm wrong. It's basically stemming around. Well, let's go back who the famous A-listers are in this show. Let's see. There was Lawrence Fishburne, Jennifer Lewis, Dion Cole, Tracy Ellis Ross, and Anthony Anderson. Is that right? They're the main A-listers of this show, and the show was centered around Anthony Anderson's character being in a well-to-do neighborhood. Is that right?
Right.
And he was trying to transition his family, or let's see, him being the father of the household, and his father being there, which was Lawrence Fishburne. They were kind of suffering an identity crisis because they were in this neighborhood that I'm assuming is predominantly white.
Right.
Okay. All right. And so the show pretty much focused around that and how Anthony Anderson tried to get his family through that little crisis. And how am I doing so far, Mrs. Blue?
Well, pretty good. I mean,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, the last show, I don't watch it. I wasn't a constant watcher of that show, but I just happened to see the last one, and I just wanted to see what it was all about, and it addressed the fact that they were in this predominantly white neighborhood, and that even the neighbors were always trying to figure them out because it was just like they were misfits. They were misfits in the neighborhood,
Okay.
and so I think they were trying to prove that we can do just what you do, and so with that, I think the last episode was just like, let's do what we want to do.
Okay.
Instead of trying to prove myself, that I can do what you do. We want to do what we want to do. So they ended up ending the show saying, yeah, let's move. Let's get out of this neighborhood and let's go live someplace where we're more comfortable. And basically I that's kind of like what I got out of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Mr. Blue, how about you? Were you a fan of the show? Or?
No, not really.
Okay.
He didn't watch it.
Oh, you said that earlier. Okay, I'm sorry. I wasn't paying attention. You didn't watch it.
Ditto on my wife.
Okay. So what is a favorite show of yours, or do you watch much television, sir?
Well, I look at a lot of building shows, homes, off the grid, Food Channel, but Food Channel, they done resorted into cooking a whole lot of stuff I don't even mess with no more. So, so I kind of eased off that, but mainly building shows, building shows, DIYs and stuff like
renovations.
that.
So-
Renovations.
My question's for you. Do you build and do you cook?
I cook. I help build.
Okay. All right.
Good answer. Good answer.
And if I didn't mention before, and if you caught it with the names, Michael and Cheryl Blue are married. They are a married couple, and they're a great couple. I've known them for some time now. I'll get into that later. But yeah, okay. So, Mrs. Blue, does he burn very well?
Oh yeah, very
He cooks well.
Very well.
Okay.
Keeps me out of the kitchen.
Keep you out the kitchen. All right, that's
Keeps
good.
me out the kitchen, and so I can appreciate that.
All right. Okay. Now, do you have any other TV shows that you like, Mrs. Blue, other than Blackish?
No, I really don't watch a lot of TV. I kind of put TV on the back burner because me as a minister, I'm mainly, if I'm doing anything, I'm studying. I'm in my word most of the time. And if I'm looking at TV, most of the time it will probably be just for entertainment, will probably be some game shows. Look a lot at the game show channel. And so, and the news. And that's basically it. That's basically all I watch.
Oh, okay. All right. Give me one more moment. I believe we have a caller on the line. Let's see who this may be. Hello, caller. Are you there? Welcome to Chat City.
Yes. Good afternoon. How is everybody doing?
Doing well. State your name and where you're from, please.
My name is Terrell Gatlin. I'm from New Jersey. I host one of the shows on Oak 93.5. I was stuck in traffic, and I was listening to the show, which is very, very good. You guys are doing an excellent job.
Thank you.
Very well. I want to talk about the topic about Blackish. I watch the show adamantly. I watch it almost every episode.
Mm-hmm.
And what they do is they talk about real life issues that Black people, African Americans, that they go through. So the last episode was more so you want to get back to your culture type of thing.
Okay.
And I think that me as a professional, as well as yourself, I think if we don't dress or look a certain way, it's kind of like a stereotype being held against us. Coming from the predominantly the hood, I always had to get jobs in which I had to show and improve myself before I could actually get it. I couldn't go in there with a T-shirt on or whatever the case may be. So I think the show is basically about African Americans being stereotyped in certain ways on where you live or their ghetto or this and that, and which is a lot of us that are not. So we kind of get judged before we reach the peak of you getting to know us first.
Okay. Thank you for calling in, Mr. Gatlin. And you know what? That is a topic I would love to get in. Just a whole nother show. Right. We got to ask you to. I have those same thoughts, but not like me not being a watcher of this show, Blackish. I just know that I saw all the hype on social media. Has anybody seen the last episode? What happened? Blah blah blah. So I said, let me check into it. I'm a Tracy Ellis Ross fan, somewhat so to speak, when she was on Girlfriends, but not this show. It just didn't spark my interest, but I was interested in knowing. What happened, at the season finale of the show or the ending of the show.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you called in with that information. And like I said, I would love to have you on the show. How about that?
I would definitely love to be there. And you guys are doing great. The couple, they're a great couple. They speak very, very well. I love it. I love this excellence. So you guys keep up the good work.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for the guests right now? We hadn't really got into who they are. But do you have any questions for them as far as Blackish is concerned?
Yeah, I feel like you guys say you haven't really watched the show. Have you ever been profiled before you even had a chance to be known?
Yeah.
Because you guys talk real. You can tell you guys are you are well educated. So before you open your mouth, have you ever been judged?
Yes.
Oh yes.
Yes,
absolutely.
definitely. We're still living in a world. We're still living in a world that does stereotype you just for the color of your skin. They already have preconceived ideas about you already. So yeah, we have been in that position.
But how does it make you feel? On one thing, because I work at a professional job and I have to every day. Other people will dress down, but when I dress down, it's like, oh my God, he's this or he's that. You know what I mean? So I have to dress a little bit more professional than even on the dress down days.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know what I mean? So it kind of makes me feel like, uncomfortable, and that's what the episode of Blackish was about, comfortability, being comfortable, being uncomfortable. You know what I mean? So it kind of makes me feel that way. And I try to avoid it, but I kind of see it. And I love all people, purple, color, red, blue. I don't care what color you are. Right. Your heart is what, matters.
Yes.
But it's a lot of things that's going on in this world that needs to be spoken about. And I think you guys should really get into next season. You really will understand, this show is real life. It's funny, but it's real.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you said next season. So is there another episode coming? I thought that was the end of the show, period.
I think that's the end of the show, period. What I meant by you guys to check it out from the very beginning of the show. I believe it's 7 seasons. 6 or 7 seasons, I believe.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So you guys should really check it out. They always have a topic. It's funny. They make it funny, but it's real.
Okay.
They try to make it funny, and, just like us, we try to laugh things off when we see prejudice incidents or any type of incidents dealing with racism or whatever. We try to brush it off, but it really kind of hurts. Yeah. It hurts when someone judges you and they don't know you.
Right.
Especially when you're a good person at heart.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You asked how that makes us feel. We deal with it all the time, but we deal with it from a perspective that we know who we are.
Yes.
And so we don't actually allow it to affect us. in a negative way. And you mentioned that you had to dress down. You know, you had to dress up more than your other coworkers. You know what?
Yeah.
That's another type of trying to prove yourself to others of who you are. And I think just being who you are is enough. And I think that for them, they have to understand us. They have to come to a knowledge of us, you know,
Exactly.
and not for us to always have to prove ourselves to them, you know.
Exactly. I agree with you 100%. You know, I just don't want to feel out of place, and I'm probably the best person there as far as what I do, but I don't get the recognition that I do. But if I feel like if I was another race, that I would.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and it bothers me a lot. You know, I go home and I talk about it, but you know, it is what it is.
Right.
Well, Mr. Gatlin, again, we appreciate your calling in today and sharing
Thank you so much.
your thoughts with us. And like I said, we'll be in touch because I would like to do a whole nother subject on this that show on just that alone. Okay.
Yes, that's a fact. I will talk to you guys later. You have a beautiful day.
All right. Thank you. You too,
All
sir.
right, you too.
Thank you so much. All right. Bless.
Bye. Okay. All right. So there was some feedback on the show Blackish. All right. Pretty good. All right. Now, let's talk about a little bit on what's happening in our world today. The awful war over in Ukraine by Russia. Have any of you two followed what's going on over there?
Yeah, to a degree. You know, with me, I try to stay out of a lot of politics, but I know when it affects us, it you know, it gets this close to home. You can't help but know what's going on. But there again, I feel like, you know, it's another sign of the times. But I feel like, again, the elites are trying to go ahead with their agenda as far as this new world order. I know it's been a lot. They don't say new world order anymore. They're saying the big reset.
Yes.
So I think they are actually putting in motion the big reset in so many different forms. And I believe that this Ukraine agenda is all a part of that. And I'm one of those, I'm kind of a skeptic when it comes to anything that I see on the media, because I believe that we're living in a world of deception. And so, you know, you really have to actually know from where my perspective, you know, I'm looking at things from a biblical perspective, a spiritual perspective. And so it seems as though that everything that they want to do to bring about this new reset, they're going to do it, and they're going to do it whether we really know what they're doing or not, you know. So a lot of these things I don't really take to heart. It was a little joke about, it was a video, as a matter of fact, that showed them, a news reporter, that was reporting on Ukraine, and it was supposed to be a whole lot of body bags out there. These people were you know, killed, and one of the body bags was moving.
Ooh,
you know, and
Lord.
so they ended up, and one of the people came to help him. The supposedly dead person help him get up under that body bag, and so we have to be careful with, you know, first of all, you have to know what's going on spiritually, and then with these people, you have to know that they are pushing their agenda, their end time agenda, and this new reset. So how are they going to do it? And they do it through media. Do it through media. So be careful what you call truth.
Okay. All right. Now, I saw something interesting in a different area that I don't usually travel, but I noticed that there were a lot of Ukrainian flags posted in the yards or on the properties of a lot of folks in my area. Not a lot, but I've seen many, you know, and I stand with those folks. I just hate to see war. I know war has to happen sometime, but you know, I just hate to see it going on. Mr. Blue, you were in the military at one time, is that right?
Yes, but I didn't ever see war.
Okay.
I was just about ready to go in the Gulf War, but we got set down because we were first recon from Camp Pendleton, and we got called down. So, I mean, when I joined the military, it was like, breathtaking, because I joined the Marine Corps because of their uniform, and that was the best one out of everyone. And when I stayed in there, well, we're not on that subject yet, but anyway, war is upsetting. It's a lot of lies. There's a lot of money involved in war. When we deal with people that are, I'm losing my thought, but just forgive me.
That's okay. You're fine.
Anyhow, I've seen a lot of guys that were shell shocked. You call it PTSD down, but they were shell shocked. Believe me. So well, anyway, I'm through talking.
Oh, that's okay. All right, I'm going to change the subject a little bit. Dr. Fauci, President Biden's chief medical officer, says that the U.S. is out of pandemic phase.
Yeah.
Although there are still new COVID infections spreading throughout the country, he claims that there will be less hospitalizations and less death. So, out of all this COVID stuff, to me, that is pleasing news. I just want to say, again, I'm not one to advocate for the COVID vaccine or against it. I'm just saying there is a virus out there that we still are unsure about. And as I say often, just continue to sanitize, wash your hands, sanitize your hands, sanitize your stations. Be mindful of where you are and who you're around, and just try to fight off this virus as much as you can within your own power.
All right.
You have any comments about that, lovely couple?
Dr. Fauci.
Yeah.
Not much to say about him except that comment that you made about him was questioned, and he contradicted himself.
Yeah.
And when he said that, because he was challenged with that, he said, because they said it's over, I can't even remember the number, how many people were still dealing with COVID. And so he had to come back around.
About 50,000.
And I think it was, over 50,000 still in the hospital with COVID. And he had to come back around and say, well, no, I didn't say that it was over, but some of the aspects of it, we are, he said something to that effect about that it's not over, but definitely we have made a turn in events where it is less than what it was. So, it's been a lot of contradictions with him, during this whole pandemic, if that's what you can call it. It's just been, it's been a lot of things going on that I really don't have a lot of faith and confidence in his word.
Oh, okay. Well, I do know this. People that I know have died from the virus. And so I do believe the virus is real. And so we just got to, it's a new virus. So they don't know a whole lot about it. I feel like, but, we just got to protect ourselves from this virus as if it was the flu or a common cold or anything else,
Yeah.
So, until we know more about it, we just take precautions.
Right.
That's just my thought process on it.
Definitely.
Yes. All right, so you are listening to Chat City with P. Ross. I'm your host, P. Ross. That's no period or dot in between. Well, there is a period and a dot in between that, but it is silent. So P. Ross. And we welcome you again to our show today. We have with us as guests Mr. and Mrs. Michael and Cheryl Blue of Blue Angel Outreach, Inc. in Pinehurst, North Carolina. It's a pleasure to have you here with us today. And we are coming from Oak 93.5 FM, WRLY, Raleigh, North Carolina. We're going to go ahead and get into our interview. I'm excited for you to tell me more about Blue Angel Outreach. But before we get into that, I would like to let you know how I personally know the Blues. I met them back in the 90s when I became a member at a church that was pastored by Pastor Theodore Spencer Sr. Mm-hmm. He was the father of Cheryl Blue. And forgive me, I should address her as Pastor Cheryl Blue. I'm sorry. I've been saying Mrs. the whole time. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay. And so anyway, I was introduced to this ministry by a cousin. And when I got there, I was pleased with what I found there. And I will tell you that the late Theodore Spencer was one of the best teaching people I've ever met in my entire life. And because of this man, I learned how to read and study the Holy Bible a whole lot better than I ever did. Mm-hmm. And so I credit him, his lovely wife, who is still living, and that ministry for my understanding of Christianity. All right. And so so the ministry went forth. They started in a it was in its infancy when I came on the scene, probably, I think 3 to 4, maybe even 5 or 7 years in its infancy. And then from there, the church transitioned to a more church-like edifice in Vass, North Carolina. And then from that period of time, I left the ministry and I started here. I moved away. And then as I was away, I heard that the ministry had been picked up by the Blues, the daughter and the son-in-law. And I'm like, oh, wow, interesting. And from there, some things changed, and they ended up back in the other building that they first began in Pinehurst.
Yes.
Yes. So I'm going to stop and have Pastor Blue, Cheryl Blue, pick up from there. Tell us how the transition started from the Word of Truth Christian Center to where you are now.
In 2008, my father passed, but before he passed the baton to me, surprisingly. But before then, I don't know if you remember, but before we went to Vass, there was a prophecy that was given and that was spoken over me. And this lady, I haven't seen her from that time to this time. And her name was Picklesheimer. I don't know if you even remember her. But anyway, she prophesied that I was going to be a leader. I was going to pastor, and that I was going to be out front. My husband was going to be in the back, and as she was saying that, and I remember it very well. I was standing in the prayer line, and when she said that, because she pointed at me, and I was looking to the back, like I know she's not talking to me, and so I kind of looked. She said, "No, you," and she pointed me out, and so fast forward, I went home. I actually, I had to repent because I talked about that lady so bad, and I was like, "See, these prophecies, they don't know what they're talking about," and blah blah blah. So anyway, in 2008 is when, right before my father passed away, he passed that baton to me and my husband, and he wanted us to take on the ministry. And so, you know, when he said that, I knew that I had really been called, but I had not been called in the way that he was called.
Yeah.
So, you know, I went back and I prayed about it, and I asked the Most High, you know, and I say y'all like Yahweh or Yahuwah or whatever, the Hebrew name, I use that. But anyway, yeah, so when I prayed about it, you know, y'all was giving me reassurance. You know, he was letting me know this is what you are going to do. So I accepted it finally, and I was down in fast for 2 years. I think a little bit more than 2 years. We were down in fast for 2 or 3 years, and so I know I heard the voice of the Most High tell me, close the doors. Close the doors.
Now,
and
when you say close the doors, do you mean the closing of the doors of the church, or what doors?
Yes, it was closing the doors to the church, but it was also closing the doors to religion, closing the doors to tradition,
Yes.
closing the doors to all those things that I thought I knew.
Yes.
And so I was like, but y'all, how am I going to do this? I have a whole congregation who's used to being up under my father, who was always teaching a certain type of way. And so anyway, I went before, I knew this was God, so I went before the congregation and I explained to them what was going on, and they received it. They received it. So we ended up closing the doors, and I felt like Abraham because I did not know where I was going. I left it. I was totally, I did not know. I did not know where we were going. And right before we had our next service, my husband came to me and he said, they're going to allow us to use Brownsing. And that's where he was working at the time. And we were there for like 2 years rent free.
Now, Brownsing is a church.
Yes,
a different
Brownsing
church.
Presbyterian Church.
Okay. All right.
And Southern Pines.
Okay.
So we were there for 2 years. And then after the 2 years was up, one day, you know, and then again, the Most High was telling me, it's time to go. And so I was scrolling on the internet and happened to find that building that we are currently in, which is the building, like you said, the building where the prophecy took place, and my father was the pastor.
Yes.
Okay.
So ironically enough, I was like, no, this is not happening. So we go after the building. It was available. We got in it, and that's where we currently are right now.
Okay. So now tell us, Blue Angel Outreach, how did you convert Word of Truth Christian Center name over to Blue Angel Outreach, and tell us what the mission is of Blue Angel Outreach?
Okay. Well, we were trying, because the ministry had changed, and because we knew that we were outreach ministry, that was not actually the first name. I think we did Agape outreach. But then when we got ready to get a 501c3, that name was already taken. So I prayed about it again, and so that was the name that the Holy Spirit gave me. Okay. Blue Angel Outreach, and it does have a meaning behind it. Blue.
I was going to say, tell us that meaning, please.
Okay. Not just because it's our last name, but blue is divine, means divine. Angel means messengers. And then outreach, reaching out. So we are divine messengers reaching out.
Oh wow, that's awesome! I like that. Okay, and I'm gonna tell you the truth. I thought the blue came after it was about your name, But and even if it was, it's still not. It has a nice ring to it. Yeah, absolutely, it does. Okay, so now in reading your website, you speak of awake messianic covenant keeping believers.
Right.
Explain what that means.
Awake, meaning that we know who we are through our culture and our historical background and through the Bible. The Most High took me on a journey and He let us know who we were. So I call the experience being awakened. And so a messianic, meaning that we believe in Yeshua HaMashiach, our Lord, our Savior.
Say that again.
Yeshua HaMashiach.
Yeshua HaMashiach. Okay. All
Which
right.
just means, most people call Him Jesus Christ. And so that's the Hebrew name.
Hebrew name. Okay.
All
right.
And so when we say we are covenant keeping believers, we keep the covenant of the Most High.
Okay.
And so we believe in the laws and the statutes of the Bible, of the Torah.
Okay.
So yes. So we kind of went on a journey, and it's a totally different from when you were there.
That's fine. So now, in reading on what you do, one of the many things you do is feed the lost at no cost.
Right.
Tell us about that.
Feeding the lost at no cost. We have been doing a pantry for years. Ever since we started in the ministry, we've been feeding people. Even in the time of my father, he was feeding people, but we took it a step further.
Yeah.
And so it really opened up. It was really a passion of ours. And so my husband, it really, he is the pantry coordinator. And it's a passion of ours because we just want to be able to reach out. And I don't know if you read our story, but
let's get into that part later.
Okay. All right. But yeah, so that's what we do, that because it's a part of our passion.
Well, you know what? Now that I think about it, tell us a little bit about your story.
Okay.
That ties into what you were saying.
Okay, so
that part.
The story is that when my husband was coming up, he experienced homelessness and he experienced hunger. So when we met, we married in 1990, but 4 years prior we met each other and we started dating. But he in that effort, he had experienced homelessness and hunger as a child growing up. His mother was trying to keep 4 boys fed, and as a single mother, single parent, and so it was difficult. It was very difficult. And so when we met, I didn't experience that, but his passion and my passion, I always had a passion for reaching out to the community and doing something meaningful. Yes. And so with his experience and my passion, we kind of put those things together.
Okay.
And so it formed a ministry.
Awesome. That's awesome. Now, feeding the hungry is one of the things you do. I saw that you have a co-op type of thing going on as well. Tell us about that.
Yes, that's our prepared meals food co-op, and it's called Chain Breakers.
Okay.
And so the whole mission of that was to break the chains of unhealthy food consumption. So many times we see people, and even ourselves, we've experienced many dysfunction and diseases and things of that nature because of our bad eating habits. Yes. And so I wanted to turn that around. My husband experienced diabetes and poor health and still recovering. But we found out through food we can heal, we can actually heal ourselves. As we go back to Genesis, when it says that the leaves of the trees were for the healing of the nations. And so when we go back and we do it, the way that he intended us to do it, and to eat the way that he created us to eat, then we can expect nothing less than good health.
Hallelujah.
Good health.
Awesome.
So,
Those of you who are just tuning in, you're listening to Chat City on Oak 93.5 FM, WRLY, Raleigh, North Carolina. I am your host, P. Ross. And in the studio with me today are pastors Michael and Cheryl Blue of Blue Angel Outreach Incorporated of Pinehurst, North Carolina. All right, so let's talk about the team of people that you have with you in this ministry. It seems like you have a good team that's helping you with your vision.
yes.
Yes.
Tell us about, name them and tell us a little bit about each one of those folks that's helping you with your vision.
My mother, number one, I have to mention her, 94 years old, and still, I'm so grateful to still have her in my life. And she has been one of our greatest supporters. And
she's driving.
she's driving, going to exercise. She's in very good health. And so she's still a teacher, woman of wisdom and prayer. And so I'm just so grateful for her. And then we have... just going off the top of my head, Cynthia Curry. She is one of the other, she's a prophetess and she's a teacher, but she's all around, she's our office manager and just so dependable. Loves y'all with all of her heart, soul, and strength. And I'm telling you, just a wonderful team. And then we've got... Miss Annie Brooks, she is our chef, our for Chain Breakers, one of our chefs, because we have two. And she is faithful, very faithful. And we have Sister Jeannie Gamble, another faithful giver. And she is,
hands-on.
I'm telling, very hands-on, very hands-on. All of our team is hands-on. Sister Randolph, Sandra Randolph, another faithful warrior, prayer warrior, Brother Carl Crisco, been there since, I think you've been there,
Back in the 90s.
Yes, still hanging in there and still coming in, being faithful. And then one of our newest ones, my grandson, Amir, and he is... he's one of the team leaders. We were having a youth, I guess you can call it seminar, and he was one of the leaders there, and he's very hands-on and comes and helps us with our pantry on the 3rd and the 4th Saturdays.
Okay, so you have a well-blended team,
Yes.
different age ranges, men, women, and I've got to go back to your mother. I don't feel right if I don't go back to her. And I'm blessed to know.
Oh, and excuse me, before you go back, I got to mention Pam and Arthur. Pam and Arthur. I was trying to think of everybody. I just don't want to miss anybody. And they're another faithful couple that, my goodness, I mean, and I'm telling you, I witnessed people who really love y'all. So I had to mention them. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. No problem. It's easy to forget someone every now and then. But I wish you could see Mrs. Helen Spencer.
Yes. What a blessing.
This woman, I'm telling you, in her 90s, active, probably get around better than a lot of us 30, 40, and 50 years old.
Hallelujah.
A woman of great wisdom, great faith, and I mean, I used to tell her, I want to grow up to look like you. I want to grow up to be like you. I want to grow up to be you. Because, I mean, she is just a perfect example of a great woman.
Yes.
And a shout out to you. I hope you're listening and watching today. All right. Now, do I understand correctly? You hold a service on Saturdays versus a traditional Sunday service like other churches?
Yes, we are Sabbath keepers.
Sabbath keepers. Okay.
Yes.
All right. And how does that fare for you guys? I mean, does that, do you hear complaints about that, or do people seem to fall in and not have a problem with that at all?
In the beginning, we kind of discussed it, and, coming out and transitioning over to what we are now doing, coming out of the church, really, we were your traditional Sunday keepers in the beginning. And so when I was bringing this to them, about being Sabbath keepers.
Now, may I stop you? When you say to them, are you referring to your congregation?
My
or
team
your
and
team?
my congregation.
Okay, all right, okay.
And so when I was, bringing it to the congregation, and I said we were going to pray about it, because I pray about everything. I believe that you should not do anything without consulting the Most High. And so I actually asked them, how did they feel? And some of them were saying, well, I want to go back to Sundays. Okay. And then, but the most of them was like, whatever you decide, we're going to do. So after praying about it again, and then I went and searched the scriptures, and I found out what we were supposed to do. And I brought it back to them, and I said, this is why we're going to do this. And so they all agreed. They said, if you can prove it in the Bible, this is what we're supposed to be doing, then we are with you 100%. And we have not looked back.
Okay.
We have not looked back.
Awesome. I know I know a few other people that hold services on Saturday versus Sunday.
Right.
And, it's just something you don't hear a lot of. So
Right.
I was just curious to know how that fits for you. I am truly grateful that you have a ministry such as yours, an outreach to help others in your community. And what advice do you have for others who would want to form an outreach program such as yours?
The advice I would give them is you have to have a passion for it.
Yeah.
Because you have to be called to do this work. We are very hands-on, and it's a lot of work involved. A lot of work involved. And so if you are not really called to do this, then I would not advise you to go into it. But search your heart, find out if this is your calling. And if it is, then go for it. Go for it, because he will back you up.
I got one thing to say about that. We've had a lot of people come into the outreach and see the expansion of our basement, our food everywhere, refrigerators and all this other stuff like that. But the biggest thing is that you can't look with your eyes. You got to come from your heart, like my wife just said. You got to come from your heart. You got to have a compassion for this and for the people. And that's the only way. I mean, we started off slow. We did. We started off slow right out there in Vass, and we started out real slow. But, it gradually, and we were like serving each day, each pantry before we got TFAB, because we got disaster relief, TFAB, and pantry 2 times a month. So when you sit around there and, over 100 some odd people that were coming out there in Vass, it slowed down a little bit when we got out there to Pinehurst, because people are not used to us out there.
Well, that was going to be my next question, because when you hear Pinehurst, you hear golf, you think of golf.
Yeah.
If anybody knows, Pinehurst is a polished town, golf community. And it seems sort of weird to hear that you would have a need for an outreach ministry in prestigious Pinehurst. But there are not only Blue Angel outreach, there are several others.
Yes.
I'm sure. So the need is there.
Yes.
And it's interesting to hear that you say that you may not have been received very well right there in Pinehurst, and your location, your building is almost right there in the almost near the center.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, Jackson Hamlet is right, not even 5 minutes down the road. And so we are right there on that that county, I mean, that line, you know, that divides Pinehurst from Jackson Hamlet, and, you know, Aberdeen, and
now,
all of those areas.
Let me interject. Jackson Hamlet is a small community that sits outside of Pinehurst. And
Right.
It's mainly middle to low income.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. All right.
And so, you know, we are considered a tier 3 county, meaning that, you know, the tier 3 meaning that we kind of fall through the cracks, because then you have Pinehurst where you have your wealthy people, and then because they outweigh the I guess you could say the medium group of people, then, you know, we don't get the benefits that we normally get. So, you know, we knowing how, you know, these people are in need, we decided that, you know, right there was perfect for us.
Yes.
And so after a while, you know, people started catching on, and even during the pandemic, when most
going.
big edifices were closing down, we never closed down.
Nope.
Awesome.
So we see the need.
We just strategized and made a different move instead of
changed our
having.
methods.
We changed our methods. That's all.
Okay. Awesome. So now, as this ministry, your Word of Truth Christian Center, was passed on to you, Pastor Cheryl Blue, from your father, Pastor Michael Blue, from your father-in-law, will you pass this ministry on to others?
If that's what the Most High says, do. If that's what He says, do. Because right now, I would love to, you know, if something was to happen, I would love for someone else to pick up, you know, we could pass somebody that has the passion that we have, that we can pass the baton to.
It's a hard thing.
It's a hard thing, yes. Yes. Well, again, I'm certainly glad that you two have taken on that baton that was passed to you and carried on the work of feeding the hungry, passing on good health tips, and doing what you do in your area and in your community. I would like to also say, as time is winding up for us, I also admire how you two have been together. How long?
Ooh, it's been, all together.
All together?
38 years.
38 years. That is wonderful, because all you hear now today is divorce, divorce, divorce.
Yeah.
Separation, separation, separation. We're seeing things in the news, even those that we felt like we're going to be together forever. Let's say Will and Jada. You know, we all know that story.
Right.
What advice do you have for others? Let's start with couples, and let's make it real quick, because again, time is winding down. Couples who may be struggling right now, what personal advice do you want to give them? Let's start with Mrs. Cheryl Blue, Pastor Mrs. Cheryl Blue.
Okay, we're gonna keep it short. Keep God at the forefront of your life. Consult Him at all times. Pray, and pray some more.
Okay, and real quickly, Pastor Michael Blue?
Well, men, humble yourselves. I mean, truly humble yourselves to a point to where it's just like, to make this one point, it's just like the house that we lived in. We revamped it, remodeled it. Everything she said, I said yes. Everything she wanted, I said yes.
Okay.
In other words, happy wife, happy life.
Yeah.
Say that again. Happy wife.
Happy wife, happy life.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, again, I thank you two for traveling this far to come be with me today on Chat City. Next weekend, or next Thursday at 5 p.m., we have the singing group, Eclectic Soul, that will be here with us. We appreciate you tuning in again to listen to us again today, viewing us from Facebook Live. We really do appreciate you. Spread and share the word that we're out here for you. All right. And Again, thank you. Chat City is signing off. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye.